I'm now going to show you why I let some of my bonsai grow unchecked and then I prune it back. If you look at this tree, the shoots here are at least 30 centimeters long, and this has all grown since April. In 2 or 3 months it's grown long. And in fact, there were long shoots like this, and one of my staff started pruning it, and I told him to stop because I wanted to show this in one of the videos. So this part has already been pruned and I stopped him. But this was what the whole tree looked like. All over, the trees were 30 centimeter long, the shoots. So I'll show you what I'm going to do. Again, the usual thing I do is just cut them back. Oh, there'll be hundreds of cuttings. This, by the way, is a Korean hornbeam. This is the Carpinus tuxani novii. Korean hornbeam is a very desirable tree, very, very trendy tree for bonsai, and they are quite expensive to buy because most of the Korean hornbeams, even the ones that are grown in Japan, they import the young material from Japan and then they refine it in Japan. So they're purchased from Korea and then refined in Japan. So this is what I do to the tree, and let me explain to you why I let the shoots grow long. You must have discovered by now from the various comments I give while pruning the bonsai is that I like to leave the shoots to grow long for the simple reason, and this is purely from the experience that I've gathered from years of growing bonsai on our nursery. I would point out that this may not be what other people do. I've seen sometimes in a lot of these Japanese nurseries, although I'm not sure if I've seen the behind the scenes what they do, but many of the trees are always kept in pristine condition. That means the hair, like your hair, is always in immaculate condition. That means you're going to a party almost every day. But this is not how I treat my trees. The bonsai on our nursery, I leave them to get these long shoots, and I have found that by letting them grow long, it makes the tree much stronger. Because after all the foliage are the food factories for the trees. It strengthens the branch and strengthens the trunk and strengthens the roots. So by letting all this grow, you're making the tree strong. If you constantly cut it, I find that it can make the tree get weaker progressively. So I don't think it is such a good idea to constantly keep it pruned without letting the tree produce any shoots. So this is my approach to growing my bonsai. And as I say, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of bad comments from people saying that, you know, this is not the way to do it, but this is the way that works for me. And because I love experimenting with trees, I found that by experimenting this way, my trees are so healthy. Look at this one, it's absolutely healthy. And it stays healthy because I keep letting it grow and then I cut it back. Now this is the 3rd week in July, so after this prune I will probably do a very light prune in the autumn, and that will be it. That's all it needs. So it's probably 2 prunes a year, and then the winter image will be very nice. This is a particularly nice one. We have lots of very nice Korean hornbeams. Perhaps I'll do a separate video to show you all the Korean hornbeam trees we have, from small to very, very large. And that will be a subject of another video. But this video is really about why I let these bonsai grow unchecked. So this is a quick prune. Now, this one doesn't need much of a prune, although I will prune it, but it is different from the one that I've just done, which was the Korean hornbeam. This is Japanese hornbeam. You see the difference in the leaves. The leaves are slightly longer. almost like Zelkova leaves. So this is Japanese hornbeam, which is Carpinus japonica, and the Korean hornbeam is Carpinus tuxani novii. So there is a difference. So again, I've let it grow, but this hasn't grown that much. And then it's just pruned back to shape. And because this is forest, I will keep the branches quite close. Several possible fronts to this tree. This can be a front as well. So this is a very nice example of another type of hornbeam, the Japanese hornbeam. So they're different from the Korean hornbeam. So this hasn't grown that much, so I haven't had to do much pruning to this. But I will now move on to another tree, which is one of my favorite species, which is the Japanese maple, or simply the mountain maple. This is a lovely, lovely tree. And this was one of the trees that someone was selling these purple or blue maples. He cribbed the picture of this tree and used it in his own advertisements for selling maple seeds. I hope he won't do this again. But this is that beautiful tree grown on rock. This was started by someone else, but I've had it for maybe about 5-10 years, and I love this tree. So again, it wasn't very healthy, but I've brought it back to life and made it very healthy by growing all these shoots. So now that the shoots have grown long, I simply prune it back. From time to time, I always put it in moss, but next spring it will go back in its bonsai pot. So I do give them a holiday by releasing it in moss, and that's how I maintain the strength and vigor of my maples. So these are the secrets that I'm giving you. I don't always leave my trees in their bonsai pots year in, year out for the entirety of its life. I don't know what they do in Japan, but I'm sure they will also suffer and go downhill. But because we are in it for the long term, these trees have all been in my possession for many, many years. So this is how I maintain the vigor. You see how vigorous the shoots are. But I don't let them get too vigorous, because then you lose the refinement. So there's always a balance to be struck. Once the health has regained, I then put them back in their bonsai pots. The other thing is that many people are tempted to use very small pots. And I always admire how the Japanese managed to keep many of their trees in very, very small pots. In my view, if anything, the Japanese growers tend to underpot their trees. Means, for my liking, the pots are a bit too small for the trees. I prefer them to be in much larger pots, because I think they look better, and of course the tree will grow stronger. So this is a bit of the detail of this tree. As you can see, it's a huge tree. And next spring it's going to go back in a very nice bonsai pot about this size.